In this realm of salt and stone, the boundary between the mortal world and the divine is erased by the rhythmic heartbeat of the ocean. Mont-Saint-Michel rises from the gray ocean like a grand phantom, a monument to human persistence against the sheer and eternal power of the great nature. As the first light of dawn breaks through the salt mist, the silhouette of the ancient abbey emerges from the waters like a sacred dream. The tide is more than just water. It is a force of isolation that cuts the ties between the modern world and this ancient, holy site. Watch as the sunlight pierces through the heavy Atlantic clouds, ridding the darkness and illuminating the weathered brown stones of this majestic medieval fortress. Every crevice of these walls holds the salt of 1,000 years, and a testament to the enduring spirit of faith that survives against the sea. The ocean speaks in a language of thunder and foam, constantly reminding us that we are merely guests in this land of water and stone. Listen to the song of the sea as it rushes through the narrow channels, claiming the land and turning the mountain into an isolated island. Time seems to stand still here, captured within the reflection of the rising tide and the ancient architecture that has watched the world change slowly. With each rising tide, Mont-Saint-Michel reclaims its original identity as a sacred island, a place where humans can only gaze from a distance in awe. The path to the sanctuary is gone, surrendered to the deep, leaving the fortress to stand alone in its magnificent and silent glory above the sea. The tide does not just bring water, it brings an absolute solitude, severing the link between the frantic modern world and this timeless place of peace. See how the modern markers of our world are swallowed by the deep, as the ocean reasserts its dominance over the works of man once more. Each stone and shell is hidden away, buried under the weight of the tide, as the landscape transforms into a vast and shimmering watery mirror. The last travelers hurry back to safety, leaving the island to its own devices as the water closes the final gate to the world of men. There is a primal warning in the rising water, a reminder of the dangerous beauty that has defined this bay for over 1,000 long years. Now, the isolation is complete. Mont-Saint-Michel stands alone, a jewel of architecture floating in a sea of gray, protected by the very water that surrounds. The heavy gates close, sealing the secrets of the abbey within, and as the sounds of the modern world are replaced by the crashing of the waves. Where there was once a path, there is now only the sea, rolling and churning with a power that no human hand can ever hope to stay. The mainland becomes a distant memory, a far-off shore that feels worlds away from the spiritual silence that now envelops this ancient and holy mountain. The deep tolling of the abbey bell echoes across the waves, a solemn voice that calls out to the heavens from the heart of the sea. In this moment of absolute solitude, we begin to understand the true nature of faith, standing firm and unyielding against the ever-changing tides of time. Step onto the stones that have been smoothed by millions of feet over a millennium, each stair carrying the weight of history and ancient prayer. The walls are a tapestry of life and the sea, where moss and salt tell the story of a structure that breathes with the damp ocean. Within the heart of the abbey lies the cloister, as a masterpiece of Gothic architecture where light and stone create a space of perfect divine harmony. Sunlight dances through the stained glass, painting the cold stone floors with the colors of heaven, bringing warmth to the ancient shadows of the sanctuary. Look up at the soaring vaults, built by hand with a devotion that aimed to touch the sky, turning heavy stone into a vision of grace. The narrow corridors whisper with the ghosts of monks and knights, their stories etched into every corner of this labyrinth made of granite and faith. Even the smallest details, like the soot of ancient fires, remind us that this was a place of life and struggle, not just a monument. Below the grand halls lie the crypts, the silent foundations that have held the weight of the abbey against the storms of 1,000 winter years. The gargoyles stand guard on the high ramparts, at the stone sentinels that have watched the tides come and go since the dawn of the Middle Ages. In the center of the storm and sea, this quiet garden remains a sanctuary of peace, a symbol of life flourishing in a world of stone. Every block of granite was hauled from across the sands, placed with a precision that defies the limits of the technology of its distant time. High above the world, the Archangel Michael stands with his sword raised, a golden beacon of protection watching over the bay and its many travelers. This architecture was built not just to house men, but to house a belief that could withstand the most powerful forces of the natural world. From these small windows, generations of monks gazed at the horizon, finding the infinite in the meeting of the sky and the rising ocean waves. But though these walls are grand, the true master of this realm is not found in stone or gold. It is the water that rules. The tide waits for no man and no god. It follows a rhythm older than the abbey, a dance of gravity and the moon's silent pull. Just as the sun begins to set, the sky and the sea become one, turning the entire bay into a canvas of pink, orange, and deep gold. The water becomes a perfect mirror, reflecting the majesty of the stone, as if there were two islands, one of earth and one of light. At high tide, the transformation is complete. The fortress is no longer attached to the earth but belongs entirely to the spirit of the sea. Only the birds are free to come and go now as the island retreats into its nightly sanctuary of deep water and fading evening light. Centuries ago, this was a journey of life and death. Thousands of pilgrims risked the quicksand and the fog to reach this holy place. The bay is a beautiful trap. The tide here is said to move as fast as a galloping horse, catching the unwary in its cold embrace. Many never made it to the gates, swallowed by the rising sea before they could reach the safety of the stone and the light of faith. Yet, despite the danger, they kept coming. For many, the risk of the journey was a necessary part of the sacrifice for their eternal soul. To cross the bay was to cross the boundary between life and the afterlife, a physical manifestation of the journey toward the divine presence. Their footsteps have been washed away by 1,000 years of tides, but their devotion remains embedded in the very atmosphere of this sacred island. When night falls and the tide is high, Mont-Saint-Michel becomes a star of the sea, a bright beacon shining in a world of dark water. The rhythm of the waves is the heartbeat of the island, a constant reminder of the world's natural order and the passage of eternal time. In the moving water, the image of the abbey shifts and dances, a reminder that even the most solid stone is subject to the sea. Behind the thick walls, a small community still lives, their lives governed by the same tides that have ruled this place since the very beginning. Yet it is a place of contrast. The cold, dark ocean against the warm, golden light of human habitation and the fire of religious devotion. Even in the dark, the sea leaves its mark, a trail of foam and salt that tells the story of its most recent visit to the land. Above the island, the stars of the universe watch over the bay, connecting this small piece of earth to the vastness of the cosmos. The water begins to turn, as it always does. The peak has passed, and the slow process of returning the land to the world begins. Patiently, the ocean begins to retreat, pulling back its watery veil to reveal the hidden world that has been submerged for many long hours. The road reappears like a miracle, a bridge between two worlds that is born from the receding waves and the damp, salt-scented night air. As the water leaves, it carves beautiful and complex patterns into the sand, a temporary art form created by the departure of the Great Sea. And every puddle left behind is a small mirror, catching the light of the moon and the silhouette of the abbey as the land dries. The connection to the mainland is restored, but it is a wet and fragile path, still smelling of the deep ocean and the salt spray. In the distance, the modern world waits. The lights of cars flicker on the shore, ready to return to the island now that the sea allows. The sea always leaves gifts behind, small reminders of its presence that will be crushed under the wheels of tomorrow's many visiting tourist buses. Silver light glimmers on the wet road as it stretches back toward the horizon, inviting the world back into the sanctuary of the stone mountain. The gates open once more, and the breath of the secular world begins to mix with the incense and the salt air of the abbey. The transformation is complete once again. The island has returned to the land, but it still carries the haunting spirit of its deep isolation. The silence of the night is profound. a heavy and peaceful blanket that covers the island as it prepares for another day of many visitors. Mont-Saint-Michel is more than just a destination. It is a symbol of endurance, standing firm against the relentless and changing currents of time. It stands as a crown of light between the earth and the sky, a place where the human spirit has reached for something greater than itself. Even in the dark, the strength of the granite is visible, a solid foundation for a faith that has outlasted empires and survived many great storms. The towers reach for the infinite, reminding every visitor that there is beauty in the struggle between the elements of the land and the sea. In the distance, the water is already preparing to return. The cycle never ends, a perpetual motion that has defined this bay for many millennia. As the mist returns to swallow the lights, we are left with a sense of wonder at the fragile and beautiful balance of this holy place. Where the tide erases the road, it carves a deeper path into our hearts, a memory of the infinite and the power of the natural world. Mont-Saint-Michel remains, an eternal sentinel of stone and spirit, waiting for the next tide to wash away the world and bring back the silence.